Hello, and thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I am your host, Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Tier. I'm happy to be here with you today. It is January 6th. This is the second video we've done since the beginning of the year, getting back into the swing of things. And of course, it's the anniversary of the January 6th riot, rally. There's a lot of names for it. But there's some news today that's kind of shocking and a bit of a surprise. A lot of people weren't expecting it. And we want to talk a little bit about that and put it into context for what we've seen in the past. But before we get to do that, we want to take a moment and, of course, we want you to know that every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we do a live stream with you. We reach out on all the social media that the internet overlords will allow to hear what you have to say about the issues that are affecting us all. And we hope you'll join us every Sunday to express your free speech about the issues that matter to you. We're looking forward to seeing you this Sunday. Obviously, we all remember that 2021 was a very difficult year. There were a lot of tensions that were still very hot and high in this nation and around the world. A lot of it dealing with the pandemic, lockdowns, the vaccinations, and threats of people not being vaccinated. There was a lot going on at the time, and a lot of fear. That combined, much like over the summer, the lockdowns and the fear of COVID that had been instilled in people by the government, wound up turning into violence into our streets. Many of the BLM riots, the autonomous zones we saw across this country and in other countries as well. And in the same way, we saw the January 6th event wound up costing people's lives. Now, as many news media would like to tell you, January 6th cost the lives of police officers. It did not. Not one police officer died on January 6th. That is a fact. And there is no evidence that any officer died as a direct event as a consequence of what happened on January 6th. But what we do know is that 4 American citizens did die. No Capitol Police, no DC police, 4 American citizens, civilians, died that day. And we know that at least 2 of them were at the hands of the Capitol Police. One of them being Ashli Babbitt, another an unconscious woman laying on the ground being beaten with a baton. And obviously this was a very traumatic event for the nation. Something that was not really gone into in the most recent January 6th committee meetings, the TV show being held by Democrats and some rhinos that wanted to emphasize that President Trump was guilty of everything, even though there is no evidence for that fact. But how is this day being commemorated? Well, not everyone went down to D.C. There was a small crowd. About 20 people actually showed up in Washington, D.C. today, and it's being reported just now, the news is getting out, because Ashli Babbitt's mother, and obviously we can understand why she was there. She was protesting the death of her daughter by the very same men that were arresting her. Now, to be clear, Ashli Babbitt's mother wasn't completely in the right. I've already heard several phone calls talking to me about this, saying that she was just jaywalking and she got arrested for jaywalking. That's the internet spin on it. That's the telephone kind of rumor mill that goes out there. That's not correct. She was correctly arrested because she was protesting. And she was protesting in the middle of the street. Her and 20 other individuals were walking down the street without a permit, holding a protest, and they were blocking traffic. Now, this is not something new. This is not something unusual. We have seen this happen many, many times. Think of any BLM, Antifa protest, any climate change protest. This is a common tactic that is used by the left, where they will block the roads. They will sit in the roads. They will do a lot of things, and we'll go over that. So it's not a new thing. Now, Ashli Babbitt's mother was determined to continue to protest. When she was confronted by the Capitol Police and asked to stop and to get onto the sidewalk, she was arrested because she refused to comply. You can think of that in many different ways, but that is the fact of what happened, and that is the news that is coming out from confirmed news sources. She resisted and continued to block roadways, which is unsafe. She was arrested. As a Republican, as law-abiding citizens, that is what happens when you break the law in a protest. You get arrested. But we can sympathize with Ashli Babbitt's mother. She was very upset. She is still upset. And of course, she should be upset that her daughter was killed for no good reason. Now, I want to go over this. You've seen this video. This is coming from NBC News. Okay? This is from NBC. And this was 3 days, January 9th, 2021. 3 days after the event. And you have seen this video over and over and over again. And I give you a warning that there is graphic violence that is going to be shown. But the fact is, every video you have seen and from the January 6th committee, this is the video you see all the time. It starts right here. And what you see is that the protest is ongoing. But you see that it starts here. Now, something that's very important, and we're going to see this again, because I want to show it to you again so you can see how unnecessary was the death of Ashli Babbitt. Besides the amount of time that's been taken here. So at exactly 6 seconds in the video, something that you can see, the video that was promoted by January 6th committee by the major news media. You start at this moment with this individual trying to break glass and a barricaded door. What you also see are a police officer. This is a Capitol Police officer. This is also a Capitol Police officer. You can barely see them. I had to stop the frame, and most people don't notice that there were police officers standing right here. They were standing at the event. It is even worse than you think. Ashli Babbitt never needed to die. This is the full video. Starting, and again, this is graphic content that you may see, but you need to see the whole thing. Not the 1 minute edited video that starts just after the police officers are moving away. Let me show you what I mean. So let's stop the video right here. The same video that was being shown by NBC News in their edit. It's the same video. And what we see already is that's a Capitol Police officer standing in front of the barricaded door. The glass has already been broken. We don't know why necessarily. He's there with several other officers standing in front of the door, and the crowd, while being very active and loud, were not trying to break through. They weren't endangering the police officer's life. We see there's another police officer. There's several police officers here in front of the door. And yes, it is an agitated moment. Now, there is another video which I could not find because it seems to be scrubbed off the internet that shows that even before this moment, there were 6 other officers that were in the room, that were on the stairs and had entered the room up the stairs. They are armed in riot gear, carrying M4 rifles. So this room was contained and controlled. The officers, at about this moment, from the additional video that I can't show you right now, and I wish I could, retreated down the stairs and around the corner, which we later see afterwards. That's where they come back into the room from, because they're in the room. They're on the stairs. These police officers are standing in front. Let's continue with the full video that you don't really get shown. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 4 officers standing in front of the doors and to the side. And continuing along this wall, if you were to continue along the wall, you will see that down the stairs there are additional 6 other police officers going on. Now, this is a full minute of video that NBC and the nation did not get to see. Just down those stairs are police officers. You will see it again in a moment, those police officers. One, two, three, four, maybe 5 police officers are in front of the doors. And yes, they're agitated individuals, but did you notice the officers are getting a message? They're getting told something by someone off screen that we cannot see in the video. Someone to their left going on. This is the full minute before you see the other video from NBC News. So we see this woman is indicating there are police officers down here, and she was talking to them, and now the police officers are leaving the scene. The police officers are leaving the door unguarded. The police officers have decided, or were told, to leave that position. Why did they do that? The situation was contained. It was very active, it was very heated, but it was contained. And then the police officers retreat and leave the door alone. And we see, after the police leave, then agitated individuals begin to bang on the doors. This is where we see the NBC News video start to take place. And you see the officers as they are retreating right here. So we know that the police, the Capitol Police, had control. Everything that happened after that moment is because of the Capitol Police. It is their fault that anyone got harmed, injured, or died, because they had it contained. They had 4 officers in front of the doors. They had police officers on the stairs in riot gear with M4 rifles. This was a contained situation. It never, ever needed to get to this point. And we know that the Capitol Police officer that shot Ashli Babbitt, he had 15 seconds. He aimed specifically for her and shot her directly. He didn't have to do that. Other police officers had the situation under control. Other officers were imminently next to him. Now, you see those feet? I know it's a little hard to see in the video, but at the very top of the screen right here, you can see these are the police officers re-entering the room. 6 of them in riot gear with their rifles. 1, 2, 3, and there are others. They were down the stairs and around the corner. This officer had been closer to the door the entire time and never left the room. 1, 2, 3, 4, and there was an officer you just saw a second ago just behind him. 5. So, obviously, Ashli Babbitt's mother, in seeing the full video and seeing the full situation and multiple angles, even though some of them have been scrubbed, I'm sure she saw them since January 6th when this happened, and she's angry because her daughter never needed to die. The room was controlled. Capitol Police created the problem, and because of that problem, her daughter died. It was an unnecessary death that day. Much like the unconscious woman being beaten with by a baton by Capitol Police officers, unnecessary. And so she wanted to protest today. And again, this is not something new. We've seen this before. In Washington, D.C., drivers became irate. This is in 2022, October 7th of 2022. D.C. drivers had to pull climate protesters out of the road. That's how often we see this with the left. BLM This is from TMZ on September of 2020. Protesters shut down the George Washington Bridge. They blocked the whole thing. We see this often. Now, I point that out not because arrests shouldn't have happened. We have seen arrests happen occasionally. But here's the thing that's different. I'd like to see if Ashli Babbitt's mother is going to be treated in the same way, like we see in California, where after protesting, after blocking streets, after the riots of the 2020 BLM riots, we saw that the California appeals court threw out the case. Someone who was rightly and correctly arrested, well, they couldn't be prosecuted for 13 misdemeanor counts: false imprisonment, obstruction of a thoroughfare, unlawful assembly, and disrupting the peace. These are things that Ashli Babbitt's mother didn't do. She got charged with obstructing a road and not listening to police, not false imprisonment, not unlawful assembly, not even disrupting the police. But this was thrown out by California police, California courts. Why was it thrown out? Well, the California courts were saying that it's unfair because the DA, in following the law and doing his job, well, that's bias. He's biased against BLM, an organization that across this nation we have seen was created, as stated by Patrice Cullors, the creator of BLM, was created to introduce black people to socialism. It was created to break down the modern social culture, to end traditional marriage, to create communal living, to redistribute wealth, and to break down the system. That's what BLM is about. That's what they have done. And they were part and parcel to dozens upon dozens of riots and arsons, murders across this country. And yet, the courts have taken care of them. In fact, if we go, and this is coming from The Guardian itself, most charges against all of the protests were thrown out across this country. And I'm quoting them. In the review and study by The Guardian, 93% of citations in Houston were dropped. 93% of all of the citations, the tickets and violations in Los Angeles were dropped. All 127 cases in San Francisco thrown out because it was a peaceful protest, or a mostly peaceful protest. Going further in this story, in Dallas, 95% of cases were thrown out. 95. In Philadelphia, over 1,700 charges to the city and to officers dropped. 95%. And then, of course, there's New York City, which famously had 5,000 charges that were dropped. The Brooklyn DA alone dropped 83% of serious criminal cases. Manhattan dropped 64% of the cases. 5,000 cases were dropped. These are people who were involved in violent interactions, in many cases arson, in many cases autonomous zones that break every single local, state, and federal law in the entire nation. They are acts of treason and insurrection, every single autonomous zone, whether it's in the Capitol Hill, Austin, New York City, Colorado, all across the country. And remember, these are the same people that had violent protests for 120 days in Portland. That's what we're talking about. And the charges were dropped in the 90th percentile over and over again for thousands of individuals. And we've seen the courts come in to protect these individuals, saying that even if you wanted to prosecute them, you can't because they are a protected group. That brings me back to Ashli Babbitt's mother. To a mother grieving the loss of her daughter that did not need to happen. That was a direct result of the Capitol Police walking away, taking a situation that was contained and making it unruly. This mother, one of 20 people walking down a street, was arrested. Fine, that is the law. But do we think that the same DAs that eliminated thousands of charges, that allowed people to walk away from arson, that allowed them to walk away from violence in the streets? We've seen the videos, I've covered it. Are they going to do the same thing for her? Are they going to let her walk away? Are they going to drop the charges against this grieving mother who has a legitimate case? And the problem is she can't sue the Capitol Police because they work for Congress, not the people, not a city. They are above and beyond you and me. She has no recourse. This is insane. So now the news is coming out, and you're going to hear a lot of stories about this. You're going to hear that she was jaywalking and she got arrested, that they targeted her. And I think they kind of did target her because she is the mother of Ashli Babbitt. She was drawing a crowd, so they made a statement and they arrested her. But are they going to charge her? If there is justice in this world, then Ashli Babbitt's mother should have the charges dropped, just like the BLM protesters, the Antifa rioters, the people who committed the arson and violence that led to 36 people losing their lives, including an 8-year-old child in Atlanta, including 14-year-old children in Capitol Hill. Let's be fair. What are the set of rules? Can a grieving mother who happens to be grieving for a daughter, someone who believes in our nation, a patriot who died, can she get the same kind of treatment that the people who are part of an organization, BLM, that was created to destroy our actual society? Maybe you think I'm wrong. Maybe you think that this is already fair and there's nothing else that needs to be done. Okay, but that's not the precedent that has been set. We've seen what the precedent is in city after city after city. Thousands of people released for the very same charges, if not less. Just like with the January 6th, hundreds of individuals who did nothing more than walk into the building uninvited. Overwhelmingly, the only thing they had, trespassing, which is not a crime that involves being arrested and in jail for over 2 years without a trial and treated like a national terrorist. If we are to do anything in 2023, we need to level the playing field. We need a single set of rules. Ashli Babbitt's mother should be released on the same reasoning why the BLM protesters were released, because it's unfair and biased to charge her as she grieves for her rightly being upset about police officers endangering everyone's life by walking away when they had the situation contained. But you've seen the video, the full video. You've had an opportunity to see all of the evidence and transcripts and documentaries that have been done, both those by the January 6th committee looking to demonize American citizens and those done by independent and individuals showing just what happened. But I look forward to hearing what you have to say. What do you think? What should happen to Ashli Babbitt's mother? You tell me.